Kia ora. Look, my name's Philip King and I'm working with Taupo District Council on a project which is around the cultural precinct down here at the area known as the Tongariro Domain and the Great Lakes Centre. I just wanted to give you a bit of an update and a project background, and we're going to have a look at a couple of sites around here that we're thinking might be appropriate for some sort of development, and describe to you the timeline and the areas of opportunities for the community to get involved in the process, the consultation. I guess the background for the project, or the catalyst, really was the 72 Lake Terrace building, the Civic Administration building, which was at 72 Lake Terrace, the green building down there, that was demolished earlier this year in preparation for the building of a new building to house 160 odd council staff. And it was council's desire to build another building down on the 72 Lake Terrace site. But through a round of consultation, public consultation, there was some feedback, some strong feedback that came to council that talked to the fact that they should be building this building closer to the CBD in the town centre to provide some vibrancy and avoid the tumbleweed effect of those cold Tuesday mornings here in Taupo. So I had another look at it, and it turned out that our district plan would not allow others to build a building of such nature outside of the CBD, so therefore it wouldn't probably appropriate for Taupo District Council to not abide by its own rules in a funny way, although there is an existing use rights for us to build a building down at 72 Lake Terrace. But with that feedback in mind, there was another piece of work done that identified some other sites in the Taupo CBD that might be suitable, and narrowed it down to two, so three in total, one being 72 Lake Terrace, which was the most preferred site, now became the third least preferred site, so the least of the three. The second most preferred site was the 2 Wharetauā Street car park. So this is the car park opposite Plateau, the Plateau restaurant. So between Burger King and Liquor King, there's a car park in there that's oft used, which is the second most preferred site. And then Taupo District Council identified the Great Lakes Centre, this area that I'm standing in here now, the Tongariro Domain, with the Great Lakes Centre and the library and the museum, and quite a bit of community activity going on, and thought about what's happening in some other regions around bringing all those community hubs together. So we've got a cultural and civic precinct all happening in the same way, and in a funny way it may be the catalyst for linking the Taupo Town Centre CBD and the Tongariro Domain and the boat harbour, lake and river all together, because there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect for those three separate entities at the moment. At the same time as this was going on, there was another piece of work that identified that a building to house 160 staff that sits on a piece of land that Taupo District Council already owns was going to cost $15.7 million. While this was going on, there was a change of government, and the Provincial Growth Fund was introduced, which is basically $1 billion per year for the next 3 years of funding, which is available to communities such as ours, which can demonstrate that what they're proposing to do is going to benefit the community both regionally and the community itself, and potentially nationally. And so there's an opportunity for us to go to the Crown and match our $15.7 million dollar for dollar. So all of a sudden we're talking another third, so close to 30 million. And then there's another methodology of going out to the community through benefactors and crowdfunding and lotteries and community benefactors and philanthropists, and pulling together another third. So all of a sudden we're talking quite a significant project that we wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. So that's what council have decided to embark on. I'm the project manager of that project, and we're right in the middle of a whole lot of public consultation at the moment. I'm available to talk to anybody about it, and any questions that you have, you can just come directly to me, Philip King. I just wanted to take you through, maybe we're going to have a look at the museum next, which is not too far away from us, but just wander over towards the museum and we'll start to have a look at what the museum has to offer currently. So we're standing in front of the museum now, which is one of the buildings that we're looking at in the scope of the project. We've brought on board some master planners, and we've brought on a team that are known as Warren and Marnie, who are an architectural firm, and also Boffa Miskell, who have got a real discipline around streetscape, landscape and urban design. So those two companies have come together, and we've engaged them to work with us for the remainder of this year to pull together a master plan of this whole area in its entirety, including the museum, the Great Lakes Centre, the library, the Tongariro Domain, all these spaces that we're looking at, the community halls down here, the Rotary House, which we're going to have a look at shortly, and just look at the whole area in its entirety with a bit of a blank page, and to try and imagine what could be achieved if we're looking for generations beyond, 30, 50 years out. So we're just standing in front of the museum here now, and some issues with our museum at the moment. We've got some challenges, if you like, with our current museum, particularly around size and some of the issues that we've got going on in that museum. I've just done had a really interesting conversation with Wayne Marriott, who's an expert, a recognised expert in museums within New Zealand and internationally. And if you're interested in what potential for the museum could bring to this project, there's a separate interview which we've just done with Wayne, which you'll be able to just tap into. So I suspect it'll be on this website here, and just hit the link and go, and we'll talk about the museum in much more detail. I'm just going to wander off now down towards the boat harbour via Rotary House and the Women's Club. Standing now in front of the Women's Club and Rotary House, used to be Senior Citizens Hall, now leased from council by both of these clubs. And we're looking through part of this master plan as we're really looking for community spaces and how we can integrate community spaces within this new cultural precinct. How we can have spaces that cater to our community's needs now and into the future. How we can have spaces that bring people together and form some sort of anchor connecting us as a community to this place and these spaces. The other area of connection that we're really conscious of, that we'd like to connect through this project, is the beautiful Waikato River and Lake Taupo. So just the fact that we've come to the end of Story Place and we're standing at this area now, that the boat harbour and the land down here is so close but so disconnected from what we currently have going on. Just going to take a bit of a walk now towards the bowling club and that side of the domain. Just standing now on a piece of land known as the third bowling green. It's the piece of land that was originally a bowling green and was leased to the bowling club, but now has fallen out of the lease for the bowling club. So it's just sitting here, a piece of land that's not very well used at all, and sitting here, not a lot of people know it's here, quite frankly. It's behind the museum, it's facing dead to the south, so some beautiful vistas out through Mount Pihanga, Tongariro, Ruapehu, Ngarahoe, the beautiful lake in the background there, and just a really nice piece of land that's kind of just sitting here waiting for something to happen. So potentially out of this project that we're working on with the master planners, there may be some opportunities here that we haven't quite yet recognised. The bowling club, 2 bowling greens right here in front of us, between us and the lake, and of course the bowling club rooms over here as well. So we're just going to wander now and just take a look through Tongariro South Domain and head to Tongariro Street and just have a look at the activity that's happening right there. Just standing down here on Tongariro South Domain now, where the really well used children's playground is, the Superloo in the background, the Lions train over here, which is a magnificent, iconic rail train now down here in Taupo. We're talking with as many of the affected parties as we can, and like I said earlier, I'm available to talk to any organisation, group or individual about the project that we're currently have got underway. There is a destination play space destined for this area, which is coming within the next 12 months or so. So we're looking forward to seeing that develop, and it's not part of this cultural precinct project, but clearly a linked project. So we're working closely with the project manager of that, a destination play space, which is coming our way sometime in the next 12 months. Although council have tried to give the master planners a blanker page as anything as possible, what they have done is they've said, look, the cenotaph is out of bounds. We're not touching the cenotaph. Maybe enhance it, but the cenotaph remains where it is. And Tongariro North Domain, no construction on Tongariro North Domain. So that's the land that's north of the Great Lakes Centre, the big green space up there. We recognise how important events are to this community, and that area up there has been clearly indicated by council. There'll be no development on the Tongariro North Domain. We're just going to take a wander over now towards Tongariro Street and just have a look at that and how it creates a barrier between the CBD and this area that we're standing on now. So come walk this way. So we're standing now on Tongariro Street, the corner of Tongariro Tongariro Street, which has always been State Highway 1, so it's always been a road that has been controlled by transit. But when the ETA went through, this is now a road that's not a road that's controlled by transit, but controlled by Taupo District Council. So there's an opportunity for us to make some changes here. We've talked about it often. There's a transport strategy going on in the background also, so we're really conscious of the transport strategy and working closely with the team that's running that. But we just recognise that Tongariro Street, being such a busy road, creates this real barrier between the CBD and this Tongariro Domain and the cultural precinct that we're looking to create. So we're hoping that through this master planning process there'll be an opportunity for us to remove this barrier in some form. I'm not saying that we won't have traffic running up and down here now, but maybe it'll have more of a pedestrian focus, maybe a road that's not so challenging to cross. We're just going to take a walk now back over and just have a bit of a wrap. Standing now back at the Great Lake Centre and the library. I just wanted to touch on the timeline. It's August 2018 now, and through the next few months up to Christmas this year, our master planners will be developing this plan. Want to be touching base with the community, incorporating feedback, coming to you with options on the plans. Then based on a plan that we like as a community, council will have the opportunity to move into a long-term plan amendment. We'd be looking to be in the long-term plan amendment process early to mid 2019. That's an opportunity to really have your say, to put in a submission, to support, to have your say, to say what you do and don't like about the plan, what you think we could amend, what we could change. Those submissions will be heard and deliberated on by council and would allow us to move into the next phase, which would be about this time next year. And that would be to start to look at concept designs, followed by detailed designs, and then we'll be looking to procure construction. So there's several off-ramps, 6 off-ramps along the way basically, which allow council to assess where we're at and proceed. We're going to build a building somewhere to house 160 odd staff. We've got $15.7 million already put aside. What this process here is looking at is how we can maximise that $15.7 million of our own money, ratepayers' money, community money, by tapping into some other of these streams that we talked about earlier, this third model. Third from the Crown, third from benefactors, philanthropists, community trusts, crowdfunding. Clearly, if we're going to get some crowdfunding, it's going to need to be a community-driven and accepted and welcomed project. The earliest that we would see anything happening here construction-wise is 2021. That just gives you a bit of an idea of the timeline. Thanks very much for watching, listening. I'm available to talk to at any time. Philip King, Taupo District Council, and thanks again for listening. Ka kite anō.